Welcome to With the First Pick, where we're going team by team to build a perfect 7-round mock draft. Who is on the clock today? We're breaking down the Minnesota Vikings, their biggest needs, best fits, and sleeper picks that can make their draft. And by the time we're done, we'll have a complete blueprint for how they can dominate draft weekend. It's time to get on the clock. Let's build the perfect draft. That's Josh Edwards. I'm Ryan Wilson. Josh, only 4 picks, starting with pick 24 for the Minnesota Vikings. They did a lot of wheeling and dealing last year in the spring. They moved up one spot for J.J. McCarthy. They traded back up to get Dallas Turner. They do have that comp pick 97 for Kirk Cousins. That was a great move by the Vikings. Not so great move by the Falcons. We'll see how that plays out. But at pick 24, the consensus has been in the millions, nay, billions of mock drafts that we've done that defensive back is certainly a need here. Cornerback and safety both. You could go defensive line, maybe even offensive line or linebacker. What are you thinking here at 24 as Malachi Stark stares us in the face? Josh Simmons is there. Anything that immediately grabs your attention?
Yeah, I think we're probably both on the same page in thinking that it's Malachi Starks here for the Vikings. But just to flesh it out a little bit, since we do have a little bit more time, they went out, they signed John Allen, they signed Javon Hargrave. So they've got a couple of interior defenders. They could still maybe look to address the edge rushers, the linebackers. You lost Cam Bynum in free agency. Harrison Smith is not getting any younger. So safety was already a need for this franchise. So to me, Malachi Starks is like the perfect cross-section of value and need for this organization.
Yeah, and again, and I love that I say this so much now, producer Striker, that people are quoting me. Josh mentioned this yesterday on HQ. We were talking about mock drafts. Don't overthink it is my mantra. That is not a concern I have to tell my 18-year-old. He is certainly underthinking things. But and with regard to the Minnesota Vikings here, and you talk about Harrison Smith, age 36, he's going to be a Hall of Famer, but you would imagine he only has a year or two left. Malachi Starks feels like the easy choice. Probably the smartest player on the field. Played in that Kirby Smart defense. Kirby's a huge fan of his. We talked to his teammates on both sides of the ball at the combine, and they could not speak more highly of Malachi Starks. We actually talked to him, and it's clear to him that football is his focus. I know he ran a 4.5. He's a track guy. He plays faster than that. And as our buddy Rand Carthon mentions all the time, teams have access to the GPS practice data, so they know how Malachi's moving. So I'm taking Malachi Starks. I think Josh is clearly in agreement. So that is one need checked. Also, I think he was the best player available. So 2 for 2. And I just mentioned that, Josh, because some viewers of these perfect mock drafts would argue with the use of the term perfect. So hopefully that can make most people happy. I don't expect we'll make everybody happy. All right, next up, pick 97. That is the comp pick for Kirk Cousins and what could be a very short stint in Atlanta. That is not the Vikings' concerns, but they do have pick 97, Josh. And what's next? You mentioned the defensive line. They sort of bolstered that during the free agency period. They could go corner here if they wanted to. They could go offensive line. They could go linebacker. What are you thinking?
Yeah, cornerback, linebacker. They address the interior offensive line as well. So probably set there unless you want to go get, maybe an offensive tackle for some depth in the event that Christian Darrisaw suffers another injury this year. Those would be the primary positions I think I would consider at this stage of the process. Maybe you want to add another running back, but this is probably a little bit too early for that. So I would still look for either cornerback or linebacker here.
All right, let's do corner. So they had a run on corners. We are in the end of the third round, too, which is also worth noting. I love Noel Williams out of Cal. I think he's a physical, aggressive corner with ball skills. Kobe Bryant out of Kansas is a few picks ahead of him in terms of where the PFF has them ranked. Also plays with an edge. He's undersized. So that's something to keep in mind. I know Quincy Riley has been a popular target on these perfect mock drafts around this range. Denzel Burke is still there out of Ohio State. And let's look at the linebackers right quick here, producer Striker, just to see, because this is about the sweet spot. I feel like when these guys start coming off the board. I love Jeffrey Bassa out of Oregon. I love Barrett Carter out of Clemson. I love Kobe King out of Penn State. I love Kobe Simon out of Ohio State. Danny Stutzman's still here out of Oklahoma. So it feels like there's more depth here.
Yeah.
But I think we also get more bang for the buck at linebacker. What do you think, Josh?
That's kind of what I'm thinking as well. I'm thinking probably a Jeffrey Bassa here, because I know a lot of people will view him as a day two type of linebacker. And then just looking at the depth that was still available with the cornerbacks, not necessarily a starter that jumps out to you, but somebody that I think you can at least add to that room to add competition. Maybe with the next pick, I think we can still get a good player there. So I think I would lean Bassa at this point.
I love Bassa. 6'1", 232, ran a 4.63. My comp for him was Deion Henley, who was a day two pick and an impact player immediately for the Chargers. Jeffrey Bassa, come on down. He's a 100-meter guy. He ran 11.2 100-meter in high school. That's moving for someone at 232. All right, cool. And look, the Vikings have a sense for these linebackers. They didn't draft Ivan Pace. They signed him as an undrafted free agent. I thought he might get drafted. He did not, but he has been a boon for them. All righty. So let's check out the cornerbacks real quick here and see where we are, producer Striker. Only have 2 picks left. And this is pick 139. We're at the top of the first round here. So Elijah Huzzie, this might feel about the range for me. The UNC corner, we talked about Quincy Riley. Longer beam out of Rutgers is also available. Denzel Burke's still here. Scroll down a bit, Striker, and let's see if there's any guys here that perhaps we like better. Shamari Simmons is more of a slot safety player. And I'm BJ Adams out of UCF is staring me in the face. He probably goes 3rd, 4th round. I love BJ Adams out of UCF. He's long. Yeah. He's physical. I think he ran a 4.53, which is plenty fast for someone that size. I'll just double check here exactly what he measured in at. So almost 6'2", 182, 4.53. That's nearly 32-inch arms. So that would be someone I would be targeting, and it feels like a Brian Flores type long physical corner. But I'll also give you an opportunity to rebut that if you'd like.
No, I like the player too. I'm good at that. I'm good with that. So the fact that you have kind of this gut instinct to go take him, let's just do that.
Yeah, and again, maybe he goes in the 5th round. I feel like he has a chance to go 3rd, 4th, so we'll get him here at the top of the 5th and wipe our hands of that and move on. Final pick, 187. So I say go ahead.
I was going to say, I think this team is a candidate to trade down as well in the 1st round, just to recoup some of these draft picks that they do not have in the middle rounds.
Yeah.
So that would be something to consider as well.
Absolutely. So now it's a sort of a best player available situation, and unless we want to double up, I don't think with I don't think you want to draft a quarterback. You need JJ McCarthy to be focused on not having anyone look over his shoulder. I say that with Tyler Shuck still on the board. But a ton of wide receivers. If you want to add depth there, they have Jalen Naylor alongside JJ and Jordan Addison. They signed Rondell Moore. But after that, it's pretty light in the wide receiver room in terms of experience. We can go offensive line depth. The world is your oyster, Josh.
Yeah. Elijah Badger, the wide receiver from Florida, is somebody that I mentioned on the wide receiver rankings podcast as being a sleeper for me in this draft class. There's actually a lot of good options available at this stage of the draft. You mentioned Shuck there, but we just saw Drake May and Joe Milton play out in New England. So probably don't want to go down that path. I know your guy, Dante Thornton, the wide receiver from Tennessee, is there. But I think for me, at this stage, just looking at the board, I would probably lean towards Badger.
Yeah, that's fine.
I was thinking about Cincinnati offensive tackle John Williams there, but I think Badger is a better value at this stage.
Yeah, and Ty Felton's still there. I don't know if Ty Felton's going to be on the board at this point, the productive receiver out of Maryland, but I'm fine going with Elijah Badger. 6'1", 200, ran a 4.43 at the combine. My comp for him was Tajay Sharp. Going deep on that one. Went to the Hula Bowl. Florida State transfer, played at Florida. Florida had some dudes this year, even though the quarterback situation was up and down when Mertz got hurt and Lagway was banged up. But let's go Elijah Badger there. All right. I'll be honest, Josh. I'm done trying to predict how fans of particular teams will react to this. I'll just assume they'll hate it. I think it's pretty good considering you only had 4 draft picks to work with. I think your original point's a good one. Trading down might be a real option here if you're Minnesota. But we got Malachi Starks in round 1, Jeffrey Bassett, with the comp pick in round 3, BJ Adams at the top of round 5, the corner out of UCF, long, physical, feels like a V-flow type player. And then finally, more depth in the wide receiver room with Elijah Badger out of Florida. All right, Josh, that wraps up the perfect Vikings draft class. Make sure to subscribe to CBS NFL on CBS on YouTube and download With the First Pick podcast wherever you get your podcast. Stay tuned for more perfect mock drafts because we're hitting all 32 teams.